start with the Republican Senate primary there to compete against Senator Jon Ossoff. There's 5 people running, including 2 members of Congress. How do these primaries work, and who do we think is going to take the edge here, or do we know?
Well, that's the difficulty here, Christina, because President Trump hasn't endorsed in this race, and it's one of the things that's making it very messy for Republicans. As you say, there are 2 current Republican congressmen running, Mike Collins and Buddy Carter. There's also a former University of Tennessee football coach in Derek Dooley, who has secured the endorsement of the Republican governor of Georgia, outgoing governor, that is, Brian Kemp. But the fact that President Trump hasn't weighed in here materially means that there has been a lot of money that is spent amongst these candidates kind of going after each other. And that's one of the things that Democrats at least see as an advantage for them in this seat that they are trying to hold Jon Ossoff's in 2026, because he's just cruising right now and has a lot of money that he can wait and use and dispose of in the general election. As of his last filing, he had more than $30 million on hand, and that's all cash that he does not yet have to deploy until he has a firm Republican challenger. And I would note we may not know that at the end of this week or by the time Joe and I wrap up our time in Georgia. It's very likely this could go to a runoff on June 16th.
Joe, why do you think the president hasn't endorsed in this race? A couple things stand out to me. I mean, he likes to endorse winners, and he may be waiting to see if someone pulls ahead to then endorse them. Also, he has a complicated relationship with Brian Kemp. Does he want to stay out of backing the guy who wouldn't certify his election?
Well, yeah, of course.
Who did certify, excuse me, who did certify, I apologize, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but this isn't the only race. We're actually looking at Texas as well, Christina, where we have not seen the president weigh in on another one that's going to a runoff, including an incumbent Republican Senator, John Cornyn, who could have been the majority leader at one point in time. So he's picking his battles sometimes in strange places, and I'll remind you that sometimes he likes to endorse both candidates. Maybe tonight, maybe Monday night, we'll see the president weigh in. And it may or may not matter in this particular case. And I'll remind everybody, if you keep your eyes on the race for Senate, he's got for governor rather, an old foe in Brad Raffensperger, famously on the perfect phone call in which the president asked him to find enough votes to win the state. He's still in the mix in Georgia. We're going to try to find him while we're there.
We're talking about Louisiana. We're talking about Georgia, where you guys are headed. The others have flown slightly more under the radar. Are there any other races that you're watching particularly? And are there any other races where you're seeing this play out again, where Trump has not endorsed in places you expect that he would have?
Well, one that we're going to be watching this week while we're in Georgia, we're also going to have our eye on Kentucky, specifically the seat of incumbent Congressman Tom Massie, who has basically made himself an enemy of President Trump because he often hasn't voted his way in the House of Representatives. He is frequently a thorn in the side, not just of the president, but of the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, as well. And Donald Trump has put a lot of energy and money and effort into primarying Tom Massie, and this has become kind of an example of the rift we see in the Republican Party right now. And the outcome of that could tell us a lot about the sway that Donald Trump still is able to hold over the base of the party, because Tom Massie is pretty well liked in Kentucky. He has the endorsement of one of Kentucky's senators, Rand Paul, who has been out on the campaign trail campaigning for him. If he goes down in this primary, that's going to showcase the power of President Trump's not endorsement, but of what happens if you get offside with the White House.
Of course, he did endorse in the governor's race in Georgia, and that's one thing that we should point out. It's an instance in the Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, total and complete unyielding endorsement, as the president said on Truth Social, is now falling behind a healthcare CEO by the name of Rick Jackson. So that's something that we're going to look at pretty closely. If you want to get your head around this, though, Kailey framed the Senate race really well. They both have something in common, in that there are massive fields of candidates on at least one side. In the case of the governor's race, you're going to see it probably on both sides, actually, with the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, in a questionable lead. But when it comes to that Senate race, Jon Ossoff is on his own here, and you're going to have Republicans likely going into a runoff here that will maybe meet again and talk about. This won't be decisive, though, I think, is the idea on Tuesday night.
Why has the party allowed that? I mean, it does seem like they're eating their own momentum and burning money that they could be using to go after Democrats, not just in this race, but in other races as well. Does the National Party not have enough command and control over these primaries to say, hey, that's our guy, the rest of you guys step aside, we need to focus on winning this race?
Well, I think it's a question of how we're defining the party here, Christina, if it's a matter of the party or the president. Because you take a look at Texas, which Joe mentioned, President Trump has not endorsed, and Republicans have had to spend a lot of money protecting or trying to protect the incumbent Senator John Cornyn. That is what the NRSC wants, is Cornyn to be the one who faces James Tallarico in the general election. And Senate leadership and leadership at the NRSC has made it clear that that is their guy. The problem is President Trump has not made him his guy. He doesn't necessarily come out in favor of John Cornyn, even though he also hasn't endorsed Ken Paxton, Texas's attorney general. So there's obviously a massive question as to how the president and party leadership elsewhere is lined up on this, and whether or not they are deploying capital in a smart way, keeping in mind it was, what, $13 million spent just to unseat state senators in Indiana?
I mean, that's crazy.
Who didn't go along with redistricting. Yeah, we have to keep these figures in mind.
Well, it's a message to a lot of Republicans out there. They're very aware of what happened in Indiana, and as we continue this effort to redistrict, now we're rolling through South Carolina.
And Georgia.
We could add other seats. Yes, and by the way, Georgia, that is going to be a big story while we're there. Be careful if you want to cross the president on this, as we're learning.
And talking about those two strains, possibly three strains, let's focus on two strains of Republican messaging. We had the chair of the RNC on our show last week, and we were going through some of these polls that show Republicans are losing ground when asked if Americans have confidence in them handling the economy, handling affordability, handling Iran. And we said, are you advising candidates going into the midterms to distance himself from the president? He said, no, we are embracing the president fully. We are running towards the most successful administration in history. Are you seeing on the ground any candidates walk that line a little lighter than the chair might like to admit? Because it is a very hard message right now as Americans are feeling these kitchen table issues so acutely, to endorse an administration that a lot of Americans see as not being beneficial for their bottom line.
I would jump in on that to say wait till after primary season.
Yeah.
They're going to need the president to get through primary season. Once you've actually got the nomination, somehow you find a backbone, and depending on what the issue is, you're going to see some real debate potentially in Washington, and it might even begin with war powers. Let's say this conflict is still underway, but also debt and deficit and some of the policy changes that the president has called for. Kailey, once we get into the race for the general election, everybody's running to the middle. This could feel different, right?
Yeah, general election politics are very different, and that may be why in some ways you already are starting to see a little bit more resistance to things President Trump is pushing for on Capitol Hill, whether it be a federal gas tax holiday, which the president has suggested that he's wanted and received somewhat of a cool welcome, or housing affordability legislation that the House is trying to change the Senate's version. It's unclear how that's going to go forward. So you are starting to see, Christina, to your question, some of the distancing emerge, maybe, but Joe makes an excellent point that the closer we get to the election, it's more likely you will see more of it.
Geography plays into it, too. If you're obviously, Christine, if you're talking to a New York Republican, they're going to give you a pretty different answer than a Georgia Republican.
Fair enough. And geography will, of course, be playing a role in your show as Joel and Kailey go on the road for Balance of Power this week, live from Georgia. Thank you both so much.